After a very interesting reaction to my trade proposal with Martin Nietzsche to the Calgary Flames, I took to the social media to see what fans think of possible trade locations for the check forward.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I also do some AHL coverage over at the Calder Times. I'm the co-host of the Surge Cast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a very fun and exciting Tuesday episode for everyone. We all know from Monday's episode, I brought up a trade proposal that involved Martin Nietzsche and Jaros Kotkaniemi going to the Calgary Flames in return for Jacob Markstrom and Andrew Mangiapane with a lot of pick swaps. And from what I could tell, there were some that were interested to see that it was an interesting trade idea, and a lot of others not so much. And you know what? That's fair. Just you're just trying to figure out what kind of trades could work, and what could starters be like and stuff like that. Because right now, you don't really know what the Hurricanes are going to do, and you don't know what type of value you're going to have from certain guys and how the team values their guys as well. So, and you know what? Hey, sometimes you have good ideas. Sometimes, not so much. And one of those ones where it's like on paper, doesn't really look great, but you kind of see where the foundation kind of is. So, like I said, I wanted to see what the fans thought, get their reactions, get their ideas from what, possible teams could be good locations for Martin Nietzsche and stuff like that. So we do have three of them that we are going to go over. We're going to be talking about the Boston Bruins, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Philadelphia Flyers. There are the three teams that were kind of, featured in the question area of what, let me know what teams you could see as possible destinations, and I'll try to find out what could possibly work for a Martin Nietzsche's trade with the Carolina Hurricanes. But before we get into all of that, for today's episode on a Tuesday. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, like I said, we do have our three possible destinations for Martin Nietzsche. It's going to be the Boston Bruins, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Philadelphia Flyers. So it's going to be very, very interesting with the fact of looking at those three teams, what could possibly might be available, and do we see that something that could possibly happen? So big thank you to everyone who sent in their ideas. One that I'm going to do a quick shout out for is Katie Bartlett, Avs Canes fan on X, did bring up Valiant Mercutian from the Colorado Avalanche. Unfortunately, with that, he is suspended for 6 months. And you do look at where she did say that Nietzsche gets the match his speed with Nathan McKinnon and Cal McCarr and all that, and Nichushkin would he has an elite forecheck and a big net front presence, plays on the power play and the penalty kill, and is great at finishing. And if that would be something that could somewhat work, then that'd be great. Unfortunately, he's got a lot of off-ice issues and a lot of risk that the Hurricanes won't take. So not really diving into a lot of that particular trade and stuff like that. But I do appreciate Katie for the support as always. Every episode, every time we do questions, she always has stuff out there to, ask. And, it's just been a big supporter from the jump. So just want to kind of give a little bit of small shout out for her trade idea. Unfortunately, he could fit in with the Hurricanes. It's just unfortunately a lot of on ice stuff is was to be a big hindrance for the Canes. But the quick shout outs for people bringing ideas. Eric_K8 on X. He did bring up about Boston and Vegas. So those are two teams that I could really check out for this episode. And then also looking at GG_Trev, he did bring up the Philadelphia Flyers and Also, Brent Lawless, big shout out to him. Always been a big supporter of the writing and the podcast and stuff like that. Just he talks about he wants to make sure that we get high end future assets and younger players, controllable cost effectiveness and stuff like that, which is true. You want to get some cost effectiveness for sure. So the first one we're going to go over is the Boston Bruins. And I know this one has some leg room, some merit to it in terms of a possible Martin Necas trade that involves sending him to Boston. And that's because of Elliot Freeman and Jeff Merrick on 32 Thoughts did bring it up about the Hurricanes were potentially a Eastern Conference team that was looking at the deadline to get Linus Ullmark that did have a Martin Necas feature into that trade. Unfortunately, nothing went through, as you can tell. But it has been brought up again over the last few weeks that, maybe there is something still there between the two teams that could make something work. Now, for me, I could see this possibly happening for sure with the Boston Bruins and the Carolina Hurricanes. Because we all know the Hurricanes, I know with from what Elliot Freeman said on the Jeff Merrick show, they're really looking to, and also on 32 Thoughts is the fact that the Hurricanes want a star player coming in that's going to be replacing the star player that is Martin Necas. So are you still looking for forward, or are you looking for someone who has some talent that can help get the team over the hump and help them in the future? So that's the very interesting part when it comes to the Boston Bruins is the fact that you look at the roster. What potential star player could you bring in to replace that is Martin Necas? Now, if you look at the forward core, big shout out to Cap Friendly for right now, since they're just recently bought by the Washington Capitals and will no longer be a website available to everyone after the draft. So we're going to use them for the little bit longer that we have for right now. So if you look at the actual Boston Bruins roster, they do have some guys who are under $1 million, but I'm doubt they're going to let guys like Jacob Lauko go or Justin Brazeau. I don't really know about that. Patrick Brown is a little bit older for someone that the Hurricanes want to go after. I doubt they're going to move on from John Beecher, who is going into the last year of his ELC. Morgan Geeky's okay. He's a center right wing, $2 million, 25 years old, but I don't think the Hurricanes view him as a replacement for a Martin Necas. Trent Frederick's another guy. He's 26, making $2.3 million. He could be in the same area as Morgan Geeky, where it's like he's up there, but he's not to where the Hurricanes feel like that he's someone they could really look at. If you look at how Trent Frederick played for the Bruins last year, he did have 18 goals, 22 assists for 40 points, which was career highs across the board in 82 games. Looking at the playoffs, how he did have 5 points in 13 games, 3 of those being goals. So there could be something there with probably Trent Frederick. Morgan Geeky making a little bit less than him. He is 25 years old. He is going to be an RFA with the arbitration rights after this upcoming season for 24-25. So he will have a little bit of extra control. He did have a career himself, goals 17, 22 assists, and 39 points. And the thing is, he was a former Carolina Hurricane as well. So you would also be bringing Geeky back because he was a former 67th overall pick in the 2017 draft by the Hurricanes. So there's a thing where you could bring Geeky back. It all just depends on how you feel about it and stuff like that, because Trent Frederick will be a UFA after the 24-25 season at 26. And Morgan Geeky he's going to be a restricted free agent with arbitration rights after the 24-25 season at $2 million. Past that, you're looking at Pavel Zacha, who's 27, Charlie Coyle at 32, Brad Marchand at 36, and David Pastrnak at 28. Obviously, there's no way you're going to get any of those two top guys for sure. Very doubtful. There are some UFAs that are going to be coming up. Jake DeBrusk, Denton Heinen, Patrick Maroon, James Van Riemsdyk. Most of those guys a little bit older. The only guy that could make possible sense is maybe Jake DeBrusk at 27. Of course, if you're the Hurricanes, you might just wait out until free agency to go get him there. That way, so you're not having to trade assets. Jesper Boquist is 25. He's an RFA, coming into this offseason. Defense, you're looking at, Parker Witherspoon, who's $800,000. Mason Lorelei, who's at $925,000. Former Blue Jacket Andrew Peak, he's going to be available at $2.75 million for the next 2 seasons at 26. I doubt you're going to get them to trade Brandon Carlo or Hampus Lindholm, who's got a no move clause and no trade clause and stuff like that. Then Charlie McAvoy, they're not going to give up their best defenseman. It's just not going to happen. Looking at goaltenders, they do have Jeremy Swayman, who is an RFA with arbitration rights at 25. The other one is Brandon Bussey, who's been really good for them down in Providence with the Providence Bruins in the AHL for a long, long time. He's 25 as well. They kind of consider him the goalie of the future. He's the same age as Jeremy Swayman. So if you're looking at someone to trade out of the goalie department, it's going to be Linus Ullmark. So if you're looking at the forward core, do you see them possibly trying to get a Frederick and a Morgan Geekie, or do you see them going for one of those guys where Frederick is a left wing, right wing option, and then Morgan Geekie is a center right wing, but he was a former Hurricane? I don't know if you would bring him back in terms of that. It'd be very, very interesting. Like I said, the rest of the forward core is all UFAs for the most part, and there's a lot of guys that I don't think the Bruins would possibly give up. Like I said, Jacob Lauko, I don't know. They're going to give up someone like him who's making less than $800,000 at 24, who is an RFA. I would say if you're looking at forwards, possibly Trent Frederick, probably Morgan Geekie. It all really depends. Defense, maybe Brandon Carlo, if anything. I doubt they're going to move up from Layson Lori. Goaltending, I don't really see them getting rid of Brandon Bussey or Jeremy Swayman. They're both 25. Jeremy Swayman showed that he's a really good goalie for the future. He's 5 years younger than Linus Ullmark. Brandon Bussey is 25. They've highly viewed him. I don't think they're really going to move on from him as well. So you're looking at possible Linus Ullmark making $5 million for the 24-25 season. He is 30, and he will be a UFA after this upcoming season. So if you're looking at a possible trade, I think the three Bruins that could possibly make the most sense to get moved in a trade for Martin Necas, I don't know what that package would look like. You're probably looking at either Linus Ullmark, maybe Brandon Carlo, but most likely it could be a Andrew Peak. Forward core, you're maybe looking at Trent Frederick or a Morgan Geekie more than anything else. So those are kind of like the few guys I think you could possibly take a look at if you're the Hurricanes. Other than that, I'm not really 100% on how that works out. So that is the Boston Bruins side of things. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think any of those names that I mentioned could be a good asset for the Hurricanes? Do you see it as a 1-for-1? Do you see some picks going back to the Bruins to help possibly get some other guys? Or do you think the Hurricanes could get a couple players, in a trade that involves Martin Necas and a draft pick going back to Boston? Boston sends a couple guys their way. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Boston Bruins being an option for the Hurricanes? Unless they're going for Linus Ullmark, then it could be a 1-for-1. I don't know. It really depends on see how that works out. But we are going to talk with the Vegas Golden Knights, see what possible guys could be a potential target for the Hurricanes in a trade with Martin Necas. And we'll do that here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. A lot of life is unpredictable, but a good life insurance plan gives your family a financial safety net to protect against some of the unknowns. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace and makes choosing the right policy for your family easy and quick. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. The thing for me about having life insurance is the fact that if anything happens to me or my family, I know I'm covered, and that's a really big stress relief off my shoulders that I don't have to worry about for the future. And with Policygenius, it helps you easily compare your options for America's top insurance in just a few clicks, and their award-winning agents can even walk you through the process step by step. And the thing with Policygenius, they have no incentive to recommend one insurer over the others, so you can trust their guidance. They have also thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. Get peace of mind with finding the right life insurance with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said in the first segment, at the end, we're going to go into the Vegas Golden Knights and look and see what potentially could be options for the Carolina Hurricanes. We talked about the Boston Bruins in segment 1. Now we're going to move on to the Vegas Golden Knights for segment 2. And this one is probably the most in I guess chaotic, if that's been the right word for what potential guys we're looking at for the Golden Knights. If you look at the forward core, they have a lot of UFAs in Michael Amadio, William Carrier, Anthony Mantha, Jonathan Marchessault, and Chandler Stevenson. Now, a lot of those guys are UFAs. Pavel Dorofeyev is an RFA with arbitration rights. I doubt they're going to let him go. He's 23 years old. The rest of those guys going from Amadio, Carrier, Mantha, Marchessault, and Stevenson are all 20 and above, all going to be UFAs. In terms of the rest of the forward core that could possibly work in a possible trade, I'm not really sure. Maybe Brett Howden, center left wing, 26 years old. He's making $1.9 million in the upcoming season, and he's going to be a UFA. Depending on how he did for the Golden Knights, he did have 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points. That's like one of the lower end of the forward guys. You're looking at possibly Nicholas Roy, 27 years old. He's actually going to make $3 million over the next 3 seasons. So you're getting some term with him. He is 20, like I said, he is 27 years old. So you got him locked up through the 26-27 season. He did have 13 goals, 20 assists for 41 points in 70 games with the Vegas Golden Knights. So goals-wise, didn't really hit a career high. It was his 3rd best goal season since being with the Vegas Golden Knights. Was a career year in assists with 28. His next best was 24 back in the 21-22 season. And points-wise, 41, his best of his career. And like I said, he did that in 70 games. And looking at the playoffs, he didn't get any points in the playoffs in 7 games this year. But last year, when Vegas won the Cup, he did have 11 points in 22 games. So Nicholas Roy could be another option that could somewhat fit with the Hurricanes. Another one that if they could make it work, there is a Ivan Barbashev. He does have a modified no trade clause. Left wing, right wing. He is 20 years old. He does have $5 million locked up over the next few seasons. He's actually in the 2nd year of a 5-year deal that he signed with the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm very curious if they move on from this guy. He did have 19 goals and 26 assists for 45 points. And that's really good for him considering the fact that he did have 29 points with the Blues last year in 59 games and then 16 with the Vegas Golden Knights in 23 games. Back in the 21-22 season with the St. Louis Blues, he did have 60 points, 20 of those assists were goals in 81 games. If you look at the playoffs this past year, he did have 4 assists in 7 games, and then for Vegas in the playoffs when they won the Cup, 18 points in 22 games. I'm very doubtful that they're going to move him from Ivan Barbashev. There could be something that might work there, depending on how they feel about getting him. Nicholas Roy could be another option as well in terms of the forward core. William Karlsson, Tomas Hertl, Mark Stone, Jack Eichel. Hurricanes are going to be nowhere touching any one of those guys. I very doubt it unless something really works out in their favor. The only guy that I could see that has the modified no trade that the Hurricanes could possibly go get is Ivan Barbashev, and that's with Vegas getting him in a trade. He does make $5 million through the 27-28 season. The other guy possibly Nicholas Roy. In terms of the forward core defense, Pietrangelo, not going to happen. Noah Hanifin, they just gave him that extension. Shea Theodore is 20 years old. Modified no trade. He could play both sides of the defense. I don't know if the Hurricanes are going to go and make a trade like that. He will be a UFA after this upcoming season. Zach Whitecloud, he's 27 years old. He's going to make $2.75 million over the next 4 seasons. I'm not really sure how that's going to work out. The Hurricanes are going to be able to pull him off. One of the guys I could possibly see is Nicholas Hague. He is 25 years old. He is in the last year of his deal. He's making $2.24 million. He played in 1 playoff game for the Golden Knights back in the 22-23 season. He did have 17 points as well. So he's a defensive defenseman for the most part. He plays on the left side. So if you do go get him, he is an RFA with arbitration eligible rights at the end of the 24-25 season. So you do have a little bit of another year of control on Nicholas Hague. Goaltending, Logan Thompson in the last year of his deal. I don't know if that's going to be something the Hurricanes want to look at. Ian Hill's also in the last year of his deal as well. So could you possibly see a Logan Thompson? Maybe. Could you see it when, a Nicholas Hague, Logan Thompson part of the deal? possibly. If you want to throw in a forward, you're maybe looking at Nicholas Roy more than anything else. But if you want to look at it in terms of a deal where you can make something work where you're figuring out your defense and your goaltending, Nick Hague, Logan Thompson wouldn't be a bad option, but does the Hurricanes view them as a star in, star out? And that could be the same thing for Nicholas Roy. Is that star in and star out? The only guy I could possibly see that could be fitting in that category for them as they want a star player coming back in to replace the star player that's Nietzsche's. The only man on the roster I can see is possibly is Ivan Barbashev. Like I said, it is a modified no trade. I'm curious to see if the Hurricanes are part of that list. I'm not really sure how that would work out. It is $5 million, so you're going to have to figure out where you're going to fit that $5 million in. Now, it all depends on, do the Hurricanes bring back Jay Gensel? How's it going to work out with Jordan Martinook and Steph Nason? Looking at the defense too, you have all those defenders that you're probably who knows how that's going to work out with those guys, because technically we only have 3 defensemen locked up going into next season out of the core that's there right now. And do you go for the goalie? And if you go younger and you replace Anderson, does Logan Thompson be that guy? So I don't know. It's a very interesting situation when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't know. It'll be very, very interesting to see how that plays out. But let me know what you think about the Vegas Golden Knights. Do you see a possible trade that could work with maybe a Logan Thompson and maybe possibly package him with a Nicholas Hague in some way? Young, 25 and 27, you get your left side defense kind of taken care of with the defensive defenseman and Hague. You do have a younger goalie in Logan Thompson who's making less than $800,000. Do you throw in a Nicholas Roy in there and part of a deal? Or do you just go with those two guys, or do you maybe try to go for a 1-for-1 trade with an Ivan Barbashev? Yeah, he's 3 years older, but he does play on either side of the wing. So let me know what you think. Does any one of those guys kind of work, or as a 1-for-1 or a possible combination trade? So let me know what you think about the Vegas Golden Knights and their type of situation. Now, Vegas is out of the way. We are going to be going to the last team that was mentioned in the fan trade, I guess, location recommendation, seeing what could possibly work for the Hurricanes. And that will be the Philadelphia Flyers. And we'll jump into that here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more, and you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on everything from Final MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list, especially with the fact we have the Stanley Cup Final going on now. There are going to be a lot of good options when it comes to Connor McDavid, also Matthew Tkachuk, and all those guys. So make sure you go check that out for FanDuel with Stanley Cup Finals going on right now. And that is all at FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to a segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said at the end of segment 2, after talking about the Vegas Golden Knights, we are now going to the Philadelphia Flyers, which is the third option of a possible trade with the Carolina Hurricanes in terms of Martin Nietzsche's. And I didn't say it back on the first segment with the Boston Bruins, but if you're a Hurricanes fan, I know a lot of people might be a little nervous if you get Martin Nietzsche's getting traded within the Eastern Conference, especially if he goes to Boston. Yeah, you don't get to play him as much because he's in the Atlantic. But if you send him to the Philadelphia Flyers, you get to see him a lot in the Metro Division. So it's kind of like, okay, do you want to make that trade in the Eastern Conference? Do you want to deal with him for more than just 2 times a year in the regular season and then a possible Stanley Cup Final? So that's something to very keep in mind of, yeah, you could get guys in the Eastern Conference, but you possibly want to deal with Martin Nietzsche's fact of how many people say he's a really high-end player. Do you want to deal with that for a long time? And this one's with the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm very curious to see what we can get out of this one. So, and Daniel Briere, the Hurricanes have made a lot of trades recently, with the Philadelphia Flyers. And Daniel Briere, he is someone not to be trifled with, that's for sure. And if you look at the contracts, there is not a lot of guys that the Hurricane, when you compare to the other teams, have a lot of UFAs. The Flyers have a lot of guys locked up at least through this upcoming season. So the ones that are going to be out of the way that I know are not going to happen, Sean Couturier, locked up for a long time. Owen Tippett are both locked up past the 29-30 seasons. Cam Atkinson's got a modified no trade clause. He's 35 years old, 5.875. I doubt the Hurricanes are going to make anything like that. Travis Konechny is 27, $5.5 million. He is the assistant captain of the Flyers. I think that could be something the Hurricanes might look at. He did have 33 goals and 35 assists for 68 points. 31 goals, 30 assists league seasons. He has been pretty much dang near at a point or close to a point per game guy. He does have 400 career points, 174 of those are goals. Going back to the 1920 season, he had 61 points at that point as well. So you're looking at a guy since 2019-2020 who's had 3 60-plus point seasons in the last 5 years. So if you're looking at someone the Hurricanes could get for a star in, star out type player, it could be Travis Konechny. He is 2 years older, making $5.5 million. He is going to be an unrestricted free agent, but he can play on both sides of the wing. That could be the possible best one for the Hurricanes to look in terms of that. Another one, and I know that was actually mentioned from GG_Trav, was Joel Farabee. Now with Farabee, he is 24 years old. He's in the third year of his 6-year deal, which was a $5 million AAV that you do have him locked up for a little bit. He did have 22 goals, 20 assists for 50 points over Flyers back in the 23-24 season. Could that possibly work? I could maybe see that happening. Now, you're talking about he's a year younger than Martin Necas, and you got him locked up for 4 years at $5 million. That might be an option too. Other guys, Noah Cates, 25 years old, $2.67, $25 million. He will be RFA with arbitration rights after this upcoming season. Morgan Frost is another guy they could possibly look at. He is a center making $2.1 million. He's going to be RFA with arbitration rights after the 24-25 season as well, making $2.1 million. He had 13 goals and 20 assists for 41 points. He played in 71 games this year compared to last year where he had a career year where he had 19 goals and 27 assists for 46 points. So this past season, he had the most assists for his career. Goals, not so much. Points a little bit down too, but he did play in 10 less games. Now, could you make a deal where it could be the Philadelphia Flyers with a Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee type deal? Then you're looking at a Martin Necas, maybe just Barry Kokoniemi, maybe some other assets going back. I'm not really sure. But if you're looking at Martin Necas, maybe there's a potential 1-for-1 in Joel Farabee and then adding some other stuff on top of that if you're looking just past the players. Another one could be Travis Konechny, same thing. Konechny's 2 years older at 5.5. He's a UFA after this upcoming season. And with Joel Farabee, you've got him locked up for 4 more years at 24 years old. Both guys can play, Travis Konechny is more of a right wing, left wing, and Farabee is more of a left wing, right wing. So one of those two guys could be an option. Morgan Frost wouldn't be a bad option either. Looking at the defense, Travis Sanheim, don't see that happening. Nick Ehlers, 31 years old. I don't see that. Jamie Drysdale, they just got him in the Cutter Gauthier trade. They're not going to move on from him. Cam York, 23 years old, can't play both sides of the ice, making $1.6 million. He's an RFA with arbitration rights. I don't know if they're going to be willing to move on from him. Goaltending, they have 2 young goalies in Ivan Fedotov and Samuel Ersson. They're not going to move on from those guys. They think highly of Ersson. Got thrown to the Wolves this past season with all the stuff that's going on with, Carter Hart and all that stuff. And then Fedotov, they just got him. He's 27. They're not going to move on from him as well. I could probably say if you're looking at the Flyers, you have more of a closer 1-for-1 option with some other assets forming around a possible trade. It's going to be Travis Konechny. It's going to be Joel Farabee. You might throw Morgan Frost in there somewhere. So it's kind of where I'm looking at in terms of those type of guys. So just like I did with Vegas and with Boston, let me know in the comments what you think of possible Farabee, Do you look at something with Konechny? Do you see adding Morgan Frost somewhere? Then you're adding, other guys and picks on top of that as well. So let me know in the comments what you think about the Philadelphia Flyers. It's just that you got to deal with Martin Necas a lot more if you trade him to Philadelphia. And that's, a little bit more to consider with him going to Boston. Got to deal with him at least 3 times. Or do you send him to Vegas and you only got to deal with him twice a year? So who knows? But I think, with those 3 teams, there are some possibilities there. It's just what do you really want to look at for the Hurricanes and how do they view some of these guys in their minds that fit that quote-unquote star player out for a star player in. So that'll be very, very interesting. So that will wrap up today's episode. Big thank you to everyone who sent in their recommendations. Very different episode than what we've usually done here at Locked On Hurricanes. So maybe this might be a little bit more thing where fans send in recommendations of teams, and I could take a look and see what kind of roster guys we're looking at, and possibly get some discourse going of like who could possibly be a part of some trades. Maybe not just Martin Necas, maybe it's just Barry Kotkaniemi in the future, or some other aspects as well. So if you want to send in those recommendations to me, you can follow me on X at OneTrueZach. Check out the podcast at LO_Hurricanes. If you want to click the link tree in my bio on my X account, you can find where to find all my articles at the Hockey Writers, also with the Calder Times that we've run for anything AHL related. You can listen and watch my other podcasts at Surgecast, and you can find the podcast link for this podcast of Locked On Hurricanes. If you leave a 5-star rating and review, I'll make sure to read it on the show. And if you're on the YouTube side of things, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss a show, hit the thumbs up button, let me know what you thought of the show itself. Make sure to share with all their Caniacs so hopefully they become everydayers just like you. We are at over 870 subscribers, and we are on the road to 1,000. And if we get to 1,000, I might do something very, very cool for you guys. But hope everyone enjoyed the episode. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Tuesday. And until next time, as always, let's go, Canes.